Welcome to the Startup Grind.
Thanks a ton all of you for coming in, and just to give you a quick heads up in terms of how the structure of the event is, it will be 45 minutes or so Q&A session between me and him, sort of a free-flowing interview chat, and after which all of you can ask whatever questions you have to him, another half an hour or so, and then we'll have a little bit of networking and everybody can go home for lunch. So to give you a little bit of intro to Ganesh, I'm sure a lot of you already know him and his company does not need introduction. But Ganesh is engineer by profession and an MBA marketing person actually. And he's been in various corporate jobs, last being Tata-AIG Life Insurance at a very senior position. Post which he joined India Property as a professional CEO, and today I probably would use the word entrepreneur. Where he's a professional CEO turned entrepreneur, and India Property today is his own baby. So he scaled it up from possibly Murugavel's idea and dream and starting point to where it is today as one of the leading property portals in the country. I think at least in the south, India Property is number one. Maybe all India, it's one of the top two positions for not wrong. So let's give him a big welcome. And
thank you. Thanks for having me here.
So it's I just wanted to talk to you, understand a little more about how you started scaling up, how you started, how your mindset changed from being an employee, if I could use that, to being an entrepreneur, and how you started doing all of this. So if you wouldn't mind walking us through in terms of how from Tata came into India Property, and in terms of because now this is more or less you've got a free hand, you're doing everything on your own like an entrepreneur. So, how did that transformation happen? And how do you feel about it? Was it something very challenging for you, or something that you're looking forward to? How did it
Actually, it goes beyond Tata. Right from when I started, I always wanted to get started on my own. But there was always this fear. My dad was a failed entrepreneur, and so we've been through really tough times as a family. That was something that I didn't want to really take as a risk. Of course, I had good education, good job. So right from my first job, which was on campus, I joined BPL when Amitabh Bachchan was the and BPL was, you could call on the phone and said whatever you want. You could call any distributor, you could pick up whatever you want to say. That was when I joined, and then I saw BPL go down, and then so I kind of while someone else was presiding over it, I had the inside view of what was going wrong. And that's where I really learned business. I learned negotiation, I learned basic selling skills all in Poshwa company near Madhasha and those roads. What e-school could teach me, I learned more there on the ground. Those guys are really smart. They do business. Particularly in Vasanth company, there's a gentleman called Nirmal who in the days of Excel used to have a 36 column sheet. Right? And then Vasanth has about, at the time they had 23 outlets. And they typically each store stocks about 7,000 SKUs. Used to track all of it store by store using those sheets daily, right? So morning to evening, you know exactly in Tiruthirupundi, in that store, this 14-inch TV stock, there are only 3 left. You can ask him later. So that was the kind of passion. He's an employee. He's not the owner. He's perhaps the guy who was managing the warehouse. But that was like an inspiring. When I first met him, I said, shit, look at the kind of involvement that they have, because the difference he's making to the business. That's some paradigm I really wanted to adopt. But from BPL and onwards too, I've always been looking for not, while you learn the regular stuff on the job, I always try to put my hands on to greenfield opportunities, something new to try out. So I did the first rural marketing Tiruvira at BPL. So typically distribution and color TVs, etc., or at that time, in 98, 99, usually stops at, let's say, Madurai or at Trichy, right, or Coimbatore. And from there on, there are large resellers who supply to markets which are at 1 lakh and 2 lakh population. That's their primary. So as a result, the company was at this guy's mercy in several ways. So whoever is paying more will be pushing that particular brand. So BPL has had a strong reach. So the chairman then, Mr. Nambiar, then said, look, Ganesh, why don't you see what we can do to the rural side. So I just went down and saw that there are several furniture resellers who want to upgrade their businesses. So So they are the primary, let's say a town like say Teni or Odi, the big guy who has a car, etc. is a person who runs a furniture business. He sells those almiras, the Godrej store wells, then he has those cane furniture, and he wants to move up. If you start stocking and selling teas, etc., you're kind of arrived in life there. So I got these ground level insights when you go hit the market, and then saw that if I partner with them and say, look, I'll do this Triveda for you, where you pick up stock of this much, 300 liter 3-door refrigerator was maybe an iPad of today then. Right? And those are the days when direct pools were being sold. So in a town which is so small, you get those, we got PPL's top-end product stock, and I organized a road show of sorts, covering some 35-40 villages in the vicinity, created a lot of demand for it. And then he became one of the top retailers in 2-3 months' time in the 1 lakh population town segment across the country. And that was a completely bold move. It kind of alienates the Madurai guy, but he has to now work harder for his money. He needs to find ways of creating and generating demand in his own market, which is why he has been appointed. So those kind of new concepts has been something that I've always been trying, and I succeeded too. So this was in BPL. Then in Standard Chartered Bank, I was handling credit card. I was handling liability sales and asset sales to existing customers. Then I put together the CRM and campaign management program without any CRM software. We use Excel sheets and then figure out what credit products to sell to people who have already taken credit, what credit products can be sold to people who have taken liabilities, that is, savings accounts and so on. So the cross-selling, upselling concept in 2000, for the first time in the Indian banking industry, was done by, I had been instrumental in putting that together. Without any, I just did it out of my own, showed traction, then the bank sponsored it. Now today the bank's BIU, the same guys who I had are now running the HDFC program in the HDFC bank. They are now of course invested in Unicon, other better or evolved CRM systems. So that's how I have always been looking for opportunities to do something which is not necessarily the standard corporate path of everywhere. In the AIG too, I set up the direct marketing channel, then I moved on to wealth management and corporate agency. Then I moved to microinsurance. Microinsurance is to sell small insurance covers to people who have taken small loans. So microfinance was big. SKS, you had Spandana, you had so many other big microfinance companies. SKS had just got listed. So I worked out a product and made a combination which could facilitate upfront selling along with the loan, which means that that was when the suicide thing was also taken up. So the insurance actually covered the liability, and there was no need for anyone to kill themselves if there is a problem coming up. So we built that product. So that was a completely new concept. We scaled it, etc. So I always have tried on such uncertainty. A couple of times I have failed, but more often than not I have succeeded. Not to the level that I wanted to take it to. At least we reached 80% there, which was anyway good. Right? As compared to nothing existing before. So that gave the confidence. And I had always been looking for an opportunity like this. So I met Muruga to pitch for business for the matrimony employee base, right? And so there are two things I went to speak to him. One is the fact that he has the complete database of people who are getting married, and we have a set of financial products and solutions, and we can actually work together. You're getting a guy who's getting married or looking to get married, right? From that point to, and then you have a Janam Pruning therefore. You can easily map out clear touch point based engagements, and we can cross-sell, upsell, banking, financial solutions, whichever. So it was a discussion that led to that. I said, look, I can set the business up for you. It went in a different way. Then finally we happened to meet again, and then we saw the property opportunity. I said, I can set it up for you, and one thing led to another. So it was serendipitous in several ways. It was an opportunity that people rarely get. I could completely down the role of an entrepreneur without the finance. That was a safety net in a way. In the sense that I could always get back to what I was doing before. But of course here, unlike doing greenfield, chasing greenfield opportunities in large ventures, here the margin of error was very, very limited. Right? In a AIG, where I was in my last role in AIG, I was part of AIG, not Tata-AIG. So my reporting was in New York, and this was like once in a month. So if I had not done anything for even 3 weeks, no one would know anything. And you can still manage that, look, it's work in progress, and they won't even question you for another 3 months. So that is a very cushy setup in the sense that while you have your self-motivation and the accountability you have as a person, as an individual to make a difference, if that is not there, in a large corporate, it's okay. I mean, you can exist for 3 years without doing anything. But that's not the situation here. And so even it's like driving down a hill or without brakes. You have only the road to guide, and one smaller and you're out. But the thrill is in managing and keeping the car on the road, and of course seeing little ahead, and then planning for it appropriately. So that was the mindset change that required to be brought in when I came in here. The margin of error was extremely limited. The business was it was existing, it was getting some traction, but there was a lot of an opportunity which was kind of uncharted and hadn't even been clearly defined. So we saw an opportunity in new property marketing, reaching the business to kind of address that opportunity, quickly demonstrated traction to the point when investors took notice, and then we spun it off as a separate company to give it the management focus and the ability to raise funds later if required. And so in 2012, India Property. So in 6 months, I could quickly demonstrate the numbers, and then we raised Series A in 2012. Canaan Partners and Mayfield Fund, who are investors in Manipal, invested in this company. We raised 7 million then. And then from then on, it's been a fantastic journey. We've grown over 12, 13 times. Almost, I think, 12 times into the revenues. Customer base is close to 5 million. And in builders, we are clearly the market leader across the country in the new property marketing. From a revenue perspective, we are very close to knocking on the leader. I think in 2 quarters' time, we should be overtaking the leader, which is 19 acres. So in 3 years, we've kind of reached what 19 acres. Say it took about 7 years or 8 years. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Almost 10.
Yeah, almost 10. So we are almost there. 2-3 quarters, touch wood, we should be there. So it's been a fantastic learning journey, and every time it's been the experimentation mindset that has really helped. Once you get in here, once you get set to the mindset of owning, so I ran it as a founder. That was my mindset. See, I didn't even think about, every time it was, if it's my money and I raise this money, if I were to take this decision, is this right for the company, is it right for the consumer, then we go ahead and do it. That was the broad guiding question that had to be answered every time. So anything that is good for the consumer and good for the company was a clear yes. Provided, of course, the wherewithal was there, and then the justification in terms of the business need was clearly established. So capital was extremely scarce, particularly in the first 6 months, because I was taking off what Matrimony had. It's an existing company, and they have answerability to the shareholders then. It had to be managed in a very tight. So frugality was something which was a shocker. From an AIG where these resources are unlimited, or a Standard Chartered bank where you have practically anything to tap into, this was like you need to figure out. The jugaad mentality really helps. So all this was, I was able to quickly transition because of the mindset. Like if I had to do it on my own, how do I find a solution? And luckily I got together a fantastic set of next level guys who operated on a similar mindset. The bigger, I would say the point that made the difference was getting them motivated to think. And so I was very choosy in who I was bringing on board. I was looking more for aptitude and attitude, and less for skills. The skills can always be incorporated, but it's the attitude that really makes a difference. So people who want to learn, who want to make a difference, who have that fire in the belly to do beyond a standard, boundary, was what I was specifically looking for. And I got a great set of guys. Initially, we quickly hit the ramp. Yeah.
But how do you keep these guys? Because one of the biggest questions any startup has is, you have huge pool of really good talent that you can probably tap into, but and even if you have the ability to pay them what they want, how do you make them stay? Or how do you even convince them that you are better than somebody else, where you will continue to be able to support them because they'll be taking life decisions based on that salary coming in?
In many ways, this is it's a function of how you go about looking for people to hire, right? So you have a set of guys whose thinking is purely determined by opportunity cost. So here, opportunity cost measured only financially may not even stack up. but opportunity cost when measured as what do I learn vis-a-vis what can I do elsewhere is how I typically position it. So when the first set of hires, we were talking about, look, I am here to make a difference to the industry. And I have left a very large, cushy job elsewhere and I am doing it because I am passionately believing in what I think can be done. And I am believing, and I think the huge difference can be made. It was essentially selling that passion, right? Then comes the other, so if there was identification to that purpose and passion, the guy came on board. And therefore I was selective in getting people who had that similar thing.
But to retain them, you need to give up things like ESOPs and other incentives to
in fact, I have not even rolled out all the ESOPs yet, even though, right? When we have talked about ESOPs, and I look, after, see, at the ground level, at the junior levels, we don't even need to talk about it, right? So it's about getting guys with the passion and the ability, the willingness to learn and soak up things, and that was all easy. The first senior hire I did after about 6 months. To him, I didn't tell about ESOPs. I said, look, we have to earn our right to even talk about ESOPs. Right? It might happen sometime, but let's first prove that we are capable of even talking about this later. I could get away with that positioning because that was in his DNA. He was a person who I could read and understand that they will get driven by such challenges, who has got that internal ownership to first earn and then ask, as opposed to ask and then earn. And that makes a critical difference, particularly in the state at which we were growing. So I kind of was looking for people who have that mentality to earn and then ask for the benefits, not the other way around. So you have to seed the organization with 3-4 critical people like this, and the message starts percolating down. So maybe in this week we'll be rolling out the ESOPs already. I'm kind of want to. So they have got, we all learned it, and something that now is the right time to really start showing. It's not that it's going to be cash or anything that's going to come to you right away, but you know that look, this wealth that is going to come up. So at all points in time, it was very important for me to demonstrate and walk the talk in terms of beats. So the first large deal. So there was a mindset of selling at a certain price point. The entire team was selling at a certain price. I was urging them to talk and think bigger. All that is fine. It's a rhetoric, right? You go and tell, you can speak, etc., etc. But unless you go and do it first, yourself, everyone is going to look up to you. You think, okay, he's going to talk and he's going to go was the mindset. So I went and cracked the first annual deal. That was for about 45 lakhs. With a Chennai-based builder, and the average sale ticket size was about 1.5 lakhs. So that was a scale difference. Now, if I could do it, then the guy started thinking, if you could do it, why can't I? And I had to demonstrate how it could be done with 2-3 cases, and then it started, building into a large, avalanche. The other challenge that I was having was that within the group company, matrimony was always the pedestal organization. So everyone wanted to work for matrimony. India Property was a poor third cousin. So everyone was looking down upon, and maybe Srikanth might identify with that. Right? I think you left much earlier.
I left in 2009.
2009.
We were just, in fact, it was very, very early stage.
Yeah. So India Property had been that downtrodden, you're the doormat of the...
Somebody was paying you. Every time somebody passes by saying that, okay, is this the guy who is taking my money?
Yeah, so you know what, typically in an office, let's say a matrimony office, the entire jing-bang will be happening in one area. There will be a dark corner where the India Property team will sit. Right? And that was across. So there was a mindset, you need to make people take pride in what they're doing. That had to be that was the first challenge that I had to overcome and get that sense of pride in what you're doing and ownership. Otherwise, nothing is going to move on. So that was selling of the vision and the dream that this is the things that we can do and how we can make a difference. So that was I did a roadshow and spoke to all the employees. We had I think about 25, 30 employees there. Small number, but 1-2 in each location. I got them here to get them motivated. Correct. So that was step 1. Step 2 was walking and showing that look, as a brand you're strong and you can command this kind of. You don't walk into a meeting with shoulders drooped. You stand with your chest tall. Your body language talks much more than even your mouth can do. When you enter a room to negotiate, you need to that communication, the conviction needs to come through your airwaves, not through sound waves. And then you know what you're talking. Then when you speak with conviction, automatically the other side starts thinking in your lines in terms of what you want to do. You take control of the conversation, not the other way around. So those are some basics that I had to demonstrate and show that this is how it's to be done. And the team was good. They were the residual team that I had, which I inherited, was a good team. I had been given a free, freedom by the board to completely replace the team, but I chose not to. I am fundamentally a believer in human capability. If you provide the right set of circumstances, I'm sure everyone wants to make a difference and do it. So I had to figure out what would make them tick. So getting them away from the dark corner was a huge motivation itself. And they said, look, there's some guy whom I cannot talk to. And that was a big driver, which led one thing to another and started the ball rolling. So in about a year, I think in 2012 we moved out completely of most locations. We had our own independent offices. We opened the largest customer support center in ET. That was even bigger than Matrimony's independent. I mean, Matrimony had several distributed centers. This was the first integrated center of that size. And now we have a huge office in Malaysia, a lovely office, fantastic CEOs across. It's very beautifully done. So that pride of working is something which is important. And so I really value the set of initial 20-25 guys who were with me when the chips were down. There was nothing there. We just had to start building it from scratch. And that was a change management challenge. It was also a mindset management and behavioral. So people were resigned to the fact that nothing can be done.
It was 2008 also. That was a big difficulty in real estate.
Correct.
And that is where we started falling down.
Right. So I mean, it's not that Muruga neglected it. He had his own priorities, right? And obviously, he was focusing on building the matrimony business. And given limited capital access, you had to pick what you want to do. Matrimony was his first baby. While this was just given a lease of life, so it was on life support for some time. Now it's like playing soccer.
But how did you, because I would think it's a lot more fragmented industry in the property market as compared to your financial segment or any of the other thing. And it is also not as organized in terms of, it's not productized, it's not organized. A lot of mindsets would have had to change. But around the time that India Property was started, when you joined, you started scaling, it was when I think people even understood, online I can actually list it, I can do these things. What are the challenges you found when you were scaling it up?
First was primarily I had a personal challenge. I knew nothing about real estate. I knew nothing about internet. I'm a marketing and business development guy. So while I'm not tech, I won't say I'm tech dumb for a better term. Not tech savvy either, in the sense that I know how things work, but I don't know the nuts and bolts. But fundamentally, I'm an engineer. I have that curiosity to figure things out. I've always been, so I know how. I've taken apart my RX100 and put it back 3 times. So I've done it myself. So I'm that kind of person. So I could quickly get to understand the nuts and bolts of the engineering required behind setting up and scaling up a website. So that was my first challenge. So the internet aspect, I could quickly grasp it in about a month. It took me about a month to figure this out. How the model could likely work, how the unit economics play out, what is network effect, all these things. Then comes the real estate industry. So we are not the primary player in the real estate industry. We are helping market at best, right? And so there are several things which are not even in our control. But unfortunately, we get swayed by whatever happens in the industry. The business is inexplicably intricately linked to the economic cycles of the economy. So my challenge was to figure out how do I build a model which is reasonably self-diversified in the sense that you're not dependent on 1 or 2 primary revenue streams, number 1. Number 2, you kind of dealing from economic cycles in a way. And there were several opportunity spots within the entire landscape. I had to prioritize amongst those. You cannot be everything to everybody, particularly when everyone is claiming that we are number 1. Everyone is saying buy, sell, rent. So that was, as you rightly pointed, the time when online as a serious media alternative was being considered by the industry. So in a way, we were lucky to we just got on at the right moment when things started lifting up from a perception perspective. So I had to put these two together. And we saw that new property marketing is where maximum money is being spent. So if it's resale or if it's rental, there is a very limited headroom that the intermediary has in terms of the money you can put on marketing. It's limited to the commission you're earning, and within that you have to manage your other expenses, etc. etc. That's on one side. So the opportunity was very, very big. The money being spent was very inefficient going to traditional media. Online gave a far higher ROI, therefore it's an easy sell. But what were consumers looking for? So that was the next piece that we had to figure out. And we quickly realized that most Indians start their search with new property inventory. Nobody wants to buy resale property. In fact, 85-90% want new property. So that's why the funnel is widest. So if you're positioned at the widest part of the funnel and also get a good supply in terms of what that funnel is looking for, automatically you get quick traction in one area. So that's a sweet spot that we cracked with 3-4 months. And that was critical. Had that not happened, I don't think India probably would have existed, because the investors would have pulled up. Had we gone after agents, or had we gone after rentals, etc., which were far easier, where the problem was quite apparent. I mean, everyone knows that a broker is a pain. No one wants to pay that 1 month brokerage. So can you put a C2C model here? Yes, you can. But how much can you monetize? It's very, very difficult. How much can you scale? It's very, very difficult. It's so fragmented there. So within while the entire industry is extremely fragmented and it has a general distrust with everything to do with the industry, etc. In that one island was new property, where you have reasonable control on what the builder is saying. When you know that this is current, this is what he's claiming to build, you know what is the current track record. You can put a lot of this together and present it to a consumer so that he can take a very informed view. So the first set of things that we did was to redesign the website, collect ground level information, put it up, curate it and put it up. In terms of video reviews, interviews with builders, last mile maps, last mile video route maps, and neat pictures. For anything new, we were the best in 6 months' time. But considering what we have today, that was nothing. But related to what the industry was having, we were clearly head and shoulders above what others were offering. And that's when we started, good lead generation. And then we figured that consumers need a lot more than just information. In India, the true pain point is not in discovery of property. The pain point is in actually transacting. Today you can get information. So we instead of solving for discovery, we reverted to solving for enabling purchase, which is actually using online as a starting point and then seamlessly migrating it into what is required to be done offline. So we launched assisted search. We created Grah Pravesh as a brand, which is the property fair brand, because it served two purposes for us. One, it was a great on-ramping tool to get builders to evaluate online as a series medium. The brand gets built at the builder's money, and all events were profitable for us. We are not spending a single rupee in terms of marketing, but the event gets completely marketed by the participation fee, right? And we reach out to a lot of non-online customers to start using online as once you've got the data, you can always reach out and So it served two purposes, and it kind of made a difference in the way we entered the builder business. So in no time, from we had about 200 to 250 builders using the platform nationally in 2011. We now have over 12,000-13,000 builders. And nearly about 70% of them are using it as paid. We didn't even try the freemium model. We said, get in, you have to pay and get in. That is how it initially started. Now, of course, because of various landscape changes, we try to do freemium, etc. So, of course, that's something that you need to go over with. The strategy needs to be re-evaluated, recalibrated, depending on market reality, competitive moves. That's something that we've been doing constantly. So when coming back to the risks, and the challenge was to build a de-risked model. So our model has a very good mix of B2B and B2C revenue streams. And B2B is from builders or agents advertising. B2C is consumers paying us for search. And then, so once you get a customer on board, there are so many future revenue streams that we can build on the same customer, which is what we've done very well. And these are all things that customers actually looking for. He needs a neutral person to guide. Otherwise, you go to your friend or a colleague for advice. So we have successfully positioned ourselves there. And third, within the B2B space itself, it's not only online, but it's a marketing solution approach that we take, which is online plus offline events plus you have assisted search and you have transaction services that you do. So it's not just about lead generation, but actually getting families to your project site. And now we have guided property tours. We take consumers out fully on a tour. We have an in-house research team which educates the customer, which is what a broker does. When you go to Doraipagam, he says that இதெல்லாம் இங்கே வந்து இந்த மாதிரி price போயிருக்கு, இந்த ஏரியா சரியில்லை, இது பெட்டரா இருக்கு. All that we have captured. Right? That's given to our paid customers. Very soon we'll be putting it up for on the online on the website also as analytic tools. So from simple information in 2011-12 today, I think there's a lot of quality of information that's not up. Yeah, the quality of information that we are putting is up several notches. We've kind of recreated we want to upgrade the site visit step and bring model flats and the complete 3D rendition of the apartment online, which we already done. I think the next step would be to, once you evaluate it, now you pay to seriously show your interest. And from there we can take you to work. And from here it can go anywhere. There are several interesting ideas we're working on. I think it's a continuous running process.
Well, what would you say would be probably one or two of the largest challenges that you faced when you were doing the scaling up? Because obviously there have been a lot of hurdles along the way.
The first challenge was getting the right people. So while of course cracking the model, what needs to be the product market pitch and the fit, etc., was a challenge which we kind of quickly overcame. The bigger challenge was getting the right set of people to go and work with the belief that this is going to make a big. So we are not a brand which has done any marketing. In the sense, we have not done any TV, etc. We just did it recently, that's like in December, 2.5 years since we launched, right? Unlike other online brands which do a lot of ATL spend, etc. So most of our traction has come through word of mouth, and adaptation of the platform has come through the effort we've done on the ground. Which, on the other side, the employee, when he's going in soliciting business, it has to reflect in terms of conviction in what he's doing. And therefore, like I pointed earlier, getting people who can communicate that was a challenge, right? Even within the sales, I have a very strong network of people from the sales side since I've been in business development for quite some time. Even within then, we had to filter further because we had to look for people who are okay to having that mindset to take ownership of that locality and this is my business and own it up as much as the people above the line do. That was a challenge to scale. The second challenge was Chennai has a all said and done, it's a lovely place, fantastic, but access to top-notch product management or marketing talent has always been a challenge.
Right? Access to most talent itself has been a challenge because most people want to shift to Bangalore or Bombay or someplace.
The worst part is people who are in Chennai and who are working in, let's say, mobile now, they are okay to come provided the job is in Bangalore. That's it. So those are conditions that is coming up. So much so I am seriously contemplating putting up a mobile development unit in Bangalore. So that is remaining to be a challenge. So and it's been only getting amplified over the years. It was a problem before. So immediately I would probably reach out to say Sureka, people around here, and realize that they also have a similar problem. All the people available there are of a certain what you call median level of capability. If you have to go beyond, you need to look beyond Chennai. That was a challenge there, and we take marketing for it. The best marketing minds are in Bombay. PR for us didn't take off the way I wanted it to because the agency was from here. They just didn't have the clout to reach out to the people in Bombay and Delhi where all PR matters, right? So that's a geography challenge that we have, and we had to figure, create a solution to get around the problem. So the last thing is, of course, coming to Chennai when you build a national business, you kind of have a conservative, I won't say conservative, but not as aggressive required mindset in building out because of the fact that the team, everyone is from a relatively
more conservative.
In here, Delhi requires a different operating mindset. I worked in all those markets, so I could find a challenge in getting people who are able to even relate to that, right, in Chennai.
The fire in the belly that is there.
It is there,
but it will be in a different form.
Absolutely,
more
right.
toned down form.
Correct. So the cutthroat street smartness that typical Delhi sales guy has is difficult to get in the south, right? And that's a big difference that would make as a capability required in Forget sales, you will use service. I mean, from here, even if you get a Hindi speaking person who serves a Delhi agent, he'll spit on you. He realizes that even right from the language, you know that you're not from here. What are you telling me about my market? So those were challenges. So we tried decentralization, control issues were there, then brought it back to centralized operations, which is very suboptimal even today. We still have to, capital could be the answer to it. I am still figuring those solutions out. So there were challenges on talent. There was challenge in technology, getting the right, not technology, again talent, but within a subset, product management and particularly the consumer internet space is a big challenge here in Chennai. Marketing and PR was a challenge. But otherwise, it was, once we had the vision very clearly defined, it was, just getting it done. There were obstacles, there were challenges, but we kind of
managed to get
managed
past
to,
it.
yeah.
And when you're talking about
So even in space for instance, when we event manager, they can't do it. It's I. So builders saw that ownership. So my sales guys were actually working with the builders sales team in most situations, and that really leads to bonding. So if something doesn't work well in the relationship later, the builders realize that look, these guys have worked as hard as we would, and that goes a long way. A lot of things get done over coffee and a drink than financial. So we were very good at that, and that helped solve a lot of challenges. So we had to get several permissions to organize events. It's a pain. Everywhere there's some greasing that's required to be done. We didn't want to do all that, right? And so we found solutions to those, purely because of the support network that the local guys were able to provide. And then same thing happened in the United States. The first time we organized a show in the US, there were skeptics. It was a rocking success. Not only because of the customer base we had, but also the fact that we had done so much of local marketing ourselves. I had sent a team 3 weeks in advance there. We populated all the Indian areas. We got awareness created. So much of today, selling a US event or a Dubai event is just a phone call away. So you just got we selected, we reject builders. So you can't come. That's the kind of control we have on events. Similarly, on the online space, we created these virtual tours and the proposition that we bring to the table. We are actually able to determine who we offer what. So for the current online sale, we had to reject almost 45 builders across the country because they couldn't give the required material on time. They were willing to pay, but we said no. We had pulled up. We had to recreate the renditions. It takes time. If you're not able to meet this deadline, sorry, including others. Others came at the last minute. We said, so we can't take it. So really proud to have reached that stage. Where we can, builders as a community are extremely. So there were several challenges, technical resources, manpower, and the solution to all of it, provided you operate in a solution mode. You can work on it.
And when we talk about the technology and how the platform is changed from where it was to where it is today, at each stage that you add something, you innovate something, how do you test it out? How do you figure out that this is the metric that people might be looking for? This is the kind of solution that they want on the website. There's somewhere that you're doing the testing, somewhere that you're validating what you're doing as you make sense before you launch it.
Yeah, so we do several experiments and pilot out concepts before we naturally roll out anything, including the online sale. The first pilot was in Chennai, but Chennai, we put it online, saw how the response was. It's even worth spending this effort and time. The results were very encouraging, then we tried nationally. But having said that, many situations you do not have well-defined matrices, particularly if it's new and in an uncharted area. So you kind of set a aspirational number. If I think this is a great thing to have to reach because of so and so change, this communicate that out as a target. It may or may not be right, but more often than not, it has been a stretch, an adequate stretch. And so we typically measure ourselves against the delivery on that particular variable or metric and try and push outcome to that metric. If it's falling short, we quickly figure out in 2 days' time it's fixed. So that's been the approach largely for all initiatives, new things that we're trying. But overall, the entire marketing team, the product team is aligned to measuring one single unit metric. That single unit metric is number of customers that we get on. Right? And therefore the number of leads we generate. That's the live stream of the business. Right? So we need to get buyers. How many buyers are we getting? What can do? And how many repeat visits are. So these are two very clear matrices which determine all submetrics, including conversion rates, funnel throughput, from opening page to closing page, drop-offs, how do you control drop-off, all of it has an impact on this number. So that's one single number that all of us.
There is a measure on like a daily basis to make
Every day in the morning there's a huddle with the team. We look at the entire team, key product marketing, couple of sales guys, and we look at everything.
You don't look at just off this thing. You don't look at getting into other allied areas like now Tata is putting up their homes on Snapdeal or Flipkart. You can buy a house on Snapdeal. It's changed. You can buy a house on Snapdeal. Are you looking at adding that as another part of the freemium model, saying you can do this, you can look at it, and certain builders you can buy or register.
Yeah, we have a national online sale running right now on the website. It's called the Hash Get On sale. There are about 200 developers who have put up their properties online.
This is like going to be a regular feature on the site.
We'll decide on whether we'll do it regularly based on the learnings we have. This is the first time that anyone has done it on a national scale online. So this is the most comprehensive platform ever built for B2C e-commerce in the real estate space. Why is it the most comprehensive? One, it has got the largest supply of builders and properties. It's got land as a property type too, for the first time. We've tried to create the entire ecosystem online, including home loans, home insurance, legal advice. All of it is available online in one single window. Right? So it's therefore the most comprehensive. And we have an offline site visit process also parallelly supporting this. So if you want to go and see the site before you take a decision, all you have to do is call us as a complimentary because we have units that are providing the services. And we got Pepper Fry to throw in some furniture. We got a couple of modular kitchen guys giving free modular kitchen. So the works is there online. We'll have to see how the response is. And then we decide how to take. When I said we piloted first with Credai Pro in February, we did that for a day. We got 21 bookings. And almost 40% came from mobile. We just couldn't believe it. So for the first time, again, we bought the sale online on mobile too. We'll have to see how it progresses. But yeah, I think it's the beginning of a transition. Say 7-8 years back, no one bought anything online. Very little was being bought online. That's conditioned behavior that you need to keep working on. And so this will likely move to a point where a qualified lead is a lead which is put it on web, right? $10,000 or $15,000. There's a higher probability of him converting as opposed to a guy who just leaves his name and phone number. So name and phone number is a certain class of leads for which we may be able to charge a certain money, but where people have put money up front is definitely a super hot prospect which got to get converted. So that's how I see this model evolving. At some point, hopefully, we put all information online, including the legal aspects and registration, documentation required. All of that can come online when you can buy online. But the category is a difficult one. It's a high involvement decision. No one is comfortable just deciding online. You have to have that critical last mile. So we built that capability too. So while having shown all that, then you can go back home, think about it, then book online is a question that's likely to work.
And when you're talking about your funding, coming to that part of the whole thing. So you said you got Series A funding from the same investors who did for Manipal. So presumably they came in through the strength of matrimony and the fact that this seems to be doing well. It's an interesting area without too much of needing to be convinced about the whole thing. But your Series B that you did after that, how did you? What metrics they were looking for? How did you, sort of convince the investors? What is it that they were looking at to get into it?
Yeah, no, Series A didn't happen because of any. So I came in when the board was putting pressure on Murugan to shut it down completely.
Okay.
Of course, all this is visible to me in hindsight now. I came in completely blindsided to that. I didn't know.
Okay.
Right. So I my first interaction with the board didn't go well. One-on-one interaction with both, I wasn't convinced that these guys are long term, and that made the challenge even more, more interesting. Right. So that was a serious issue. If things don't go wrong, don't go in 3 months' time, I'll be out. And that was when just 2008 had happened. I think just when the market was picking up, etc. But for senior resources in Chennai, etc., it's very difficult to find employment. I said, fine, let's give it. If not now, then when was the approach which I came. So that was the situation. They didn't put the money the moment I came in. I had to demonstrate the model, the viability and the scale into which it can grow. It took 6-7 months. Then 3 more months of speaking to them, investment committees to get the Series A.
Oh.
So I had to sell
There's a lot of work.
Correct. Series A didn't happen because of course, Durga's track record definitely
Would have given some help.
gave some credibility because these guys wanted to pull the trigger first. The problem was they didn't let us go outside. They said, look, we'll do it. Don't even go looking outside. Which again, in hindsight, I think is a mistake. We should have, given the competitive nature that the industry is now moving to, we should get more long-term, patient money guys. But anyway, we'll find solutions to it. So the Series A happened that way. So after Series A had happened, we wanted to go out to get in someone with a more longer perspective on. So typical, and this was clearly panning out to be a multi-year opportunity. It's not typically 3 years, 4 years you break even and then you can then give an exit to VC, etc. So I had to finally start looking at getting in strategic investments. So that's how we approached Series B. Bertelsmann of Germany, they invested in the company. Bertelsmann is it's a $9 billion media group. They have very clear views on looking at digital media as the next thing. They miss the bus, they want to at least invest and get it. And they have serious long-term money. So we got them in, and my evolution also as someone who knows the business and who has run it was far higher than Series A. We know exactly what needs to be done. We were focused on one area that made us very, very attractive, and which is even today very attractive. So we are the only players who are focusing only on property buying. Everybody else is doing buy, sell, rent. You have very limited resources. You cannot deploy it across. And this is the sweet spot in the market. Property buy is the most sweet spot, right? And we have scaled tremendously because of that. So buy, sell, rent all put together, leader is at X, and we are now at 90% of X in just one focus market. So just to give you so you look at Amazon. Amazon was never a leader in any category, right? But suppose was, or you take Airbnb or the valuation relatively the premium that these companies command was because of the deep natured entrenchment they have on the vertical, and that is critical. So within the property space, buying is a big opportunity. We are very deeply entrenched. That's what was the reason why Bertelsmann. That was the pitch to Bertelsmann. That was all, and we demonstrated to them that India market is not like other markets. Everyone, the moment they look at the number of people you have, they know, oh shit, this is not an Indian business. I have 1,200 employees, right? Which is, this is not the classified space. You have 50, 100 employees at best, and then you have a million users. That's how the economics play out. That's not the case in India. In India, nothing has worked on pure play e-commerce. Everything is offline enabled, right? That's the same thing that was playing out in Brazil and to some extent in China. So I had to put together all this, and then there is the family member, luckily, one of the Bertelsmann family members, and I could get this info out, was an Indian.
Okay.
She had been married into the Bertelsmann family and had a kind of understanding of how India is and all. So I asked them to come over here. You need to see the market before you can even take a call. They came down and then they saw what we were doing, and then I showed them, look, this last one is super important because of several infrastructural issues we have, including internet access at a very base level and digitalization of information. So none of this is there. So what a Zillow model or a Trulia model cannot work here. You cannot evaluate this business as that. So maybe look at Sufol in China, or look at say Viva Real in Brazil. These are the more comparables. And that's when they started re-evaluating, and then they saw the point that we're making. And we had built assistant search by it, we had built the last mile services. So we were not just solving for discovery of property, but solving for enabling purchase. And that was a big differentiator we were promising to our consumers. And we were significantly ahead in terms of, we had a big head start over anybody else. Now everyone is looking in that direction to see how we can bridge our friends. So in India, e-commerce took off and cash on delivery came. What we are doing is like COD, cash on delivery, equivalent in the real estate space, right? In terms of helping the last mile. That's super important. Then somewhere the network effects start playing. Less than 10% of total property available is even online. And therefore supply side is not really, it's not optimal yet. But then demands, only then the demand side will start coming in. Which is why still consumers use brokers or print ads even now. And they are still the preferred marketing medium. So if you take another property 12 months or 18 months before we reach an inflection point.
And my last question to you would be, what would be the threat of competition in terms of, because now you have Consim.com, you have 99 acres, you have all of these guys, Magic Bricks, all of these guys coming here, and each of them, like you said, are claimed to be number one. They're doing this, they're doing that, and a lot of them are got deeper pockets in terms of funding than what we have. So, how do you see the threat of competition? Is it going to be an Ola taxi for sure type situation, or how do you see it panning out?
It could pan out in any way. Honestly, I mean, you could have consolidation happening now, it could happen 2 years down the line, depending on how much oxygen people are willing to supply to the room, right? Right now, there are so many people already in the room. There are 7, 8 well-funded players. But having said that, while the industry is in a reasonably nascent stage in terms of start-off, there is a lot of need. There is a lot of capital that has come in and super liquidity. Therefore, there are questions being asked between this room. Yes, all those investors are talking about so what now? There is so much money. Is it going to be another OLX versus quicker, or is it going to be another? So those are real realities that all of us are faced with. But what is the silver lining here is that the market is far larger than the typical classifieds market or even e-commerce to that extent. We're not talking GMV and some proportion there. We're talking real numbers that is retained to the company as revenue. So it's far more attractive from that perspective. And the long term, this can generate as an industry $2 or even $3 billion companies, right? So it's a multi-billion dollar, it's a $40 or $50 billion space that we are, that's an addressable market that we are building these out into. So that's the broad canvas, right? So it's a full white wall there. Each one is started, one is painting here, the other one is painting there, we are painting here, right? So it depends on how it's going to pan out. Little early days, but again, there is a lot of hype that has been created. Competition is extremely intense in our markets. So you have housing which is giving everything for free. So it's disruption with money in many ways, and all that advertising that is going to disproportionately give some traffic, but not sustainable again in the long term. How long can you sustain this kind of onslaught is a question that all of us will have to figure out. Like you said, taxi for sure was Ola. The same thing went on. Ultimately, working together made more sense. Those things are likely to happen. Right? So the way we see it is that we are very focused. We are not spreading across. We have been supremely capital efficient. We reached the least amount of money, and we are close to number one in terms of revenues. That's putting us in a very attractive position. And right now we are well capitalized. We will definitely be raising funds. Of course, seeking a lot more patient money.
Obviously,
given that
because of the long gestation. Okay. You also see, do you see that you would probably have to keep innovating even faster today than you did maybe a year ago?
Absolutely, yeah. See, so a year and a half back we launched the virtual tours. Now everyone is doing that, right? 3D floor plans we launched first. So housing did a brilliant, curation process of getting rental data completely, well. So they are very strong on rental, but there's no money in it. We realized that long time back, that's why we didn't touch rental. We're doing the same on new. In terms of getting a lot of detailed info, we do our own curation, verification, including legal verification, etc. So now housing is looking at this area, and so is 19 acres, and so is common floor, and so is Magic Bricks. So all of them realized that new property is where they, and we are 3 years ahead, which is a big strength that we have. But for them, and these are B2B relationships. That's a big entry barrier again that we have. It's difficult to crack a relationship. It takes time in terms of getting in. Having said that, you could disrupt with money too, like what housing does. It's saying, okay, fine, go for free. So for the Tata sale online, housing spent close to about a crore, right? Including the advertising cost. None of us would even think of doing that. But that's the kind of access to capital that they have. So the reality has shifted a lot in the last 12 months. Access to capital is becoming a big, important advantage to carry. Whatever be the model you have, whatever be the monetization you have, capital is supremely important. It's an unfortunate, sad state of affairs. But yeah, these are one of the challenges that keep coming. So sometime back, capital was not issue, something else was issue. Today, capital is an issue.
So what would be your final thoughts in terms of giving advice to aspiring entrepreneurs or current entrepreneurs, early stage startups, in terms of scaling up and in terms of bootstrapping and running the company?
I don't think I've reached any stage to give advice, honestly, right? So I'm your pseudo entrepreneur in several ways. But yeah, I've had good experience. Therefore, if there are any questions that you have specifically asked, I'd be happy to take. But 2-3 things that I picked up in terms of my conversations with others, and some of my own experience. Maybe I just take the liberty of sharing. And it's not only by my learnings, but actually it's a clean learning by speaking to a few people. When you bootstrap, you not bootstrap it as much as you can. Capital is sexy, but remember that the person coming there is no saint, right? And so when it's very tempting to quickly raise capital by selling your own stock and selling a company, it comes with a lot of caveats. You need to be sure you understand this. So don't even walk that path unless you have a very strong position, which means that you have a very good base of paying customers who are growing using your product. You have tested it out and you know that scalability, etc. Right? Only then you need to. Otherwise, if you can make it profitable within your own bootstrapping, make some money, that's the best route. But once you hit that spot, you need capital. Don't shy from going out and raising money. You have to bring it to the point where the momentum is strong enough, where you have reasonable visibility on new customers additions, revenue growth, there are paying customers, money is coming in the bank, then that's a good point to go. Don't go any earlier. If you go, and at that point also, if it's better to take the help of accelerators, they will be able to give you the right advice. The way term sheets are framed, there are several black holes there. You need to be very sure you understand. Take legal help. Don't assume that the guy who's putting money wants you to only succeed. He'll have his backside, front side, everything protected. You will be left facing the world. So these are things that I'm sure if you go to Quora, you'll get several answers to such questions. So please be careful, do your due diligence. After all, it's your product and your dream. You can't let somebody else hijack it. Right? Yeah, that's of course when you are living this out and scaling, there's this strong temptation to quickly hit riches, etc. That should not be the. You focus on the consumer, like taking the same point on competition that I touch about it because I think people already told about that before. Honestly, we've been focusing on what is good for the customer. If that's good for a customer, things will fall into place. And that's been the guiding thinking across. Good for customer, good for business, good. Otherwise, re-evaluate and see how we can make it good for the customer, make it good for the business. If it's still the answer is no, then don't do it. Don't waste time. How do you know whether it's good for the customer? Test it out. Ask customers. Get feedback. This is a simple mantra that I've always had. It works. So if it's good for the customer, if it's focused, whatever be the competition, if you focus on the customer to do what's right, competition will start following the case. We've had that experience. We focused on the 3D walkthroughs, etc. The identification of the sweet spot in the market, we were the first. Everyone is looking at it, right? So that's by experience. So in your cases also, please be guided by that thinking. What's necessarily popular to outside people, what necessarily appeals as numbers to VCs, etc. may not make sense to your business. You know it better than anybody else. And in any discussion, you know the business far better than the guy it's your business. Don't get overawed by name, by designation, by pedigree of the company that he's coming from. Nothing. Yes, he knows cock shit about your business. Right? And please use that to your advantage. You can, and it's your conviction that matters. And it's ultimately the story that you spin that is going to get the attention. So we do your groundwork on these areas before you even get out. So first is bootstrap as much, build a strong, scalable proposition which has got growing usage. Then you go out, then you have a strong, you're talking from a position of strength. If you've got nothing proven and you've got or a meager, very small amount tested out, you are talking from a position of weakness. And he'll say, I'm taking on the risk and therefore I need so much and whatever, you may end up selling cheap. Always the answer will be very close. You will be there, you will be knocking on it without even realizing it. Don't give up that quickly, give up the faith quickly. When you go out for fundraising, do it in right earnestness, be fully prepared. The story should be compelling, particularly when you are doing pre-series or angel. The story is what? The conviction means to fire imagination, act as both. Numbers, technical aspects, etc. will get sorted. It's a story, the consumer proportion that is what is currently what is being seen and valued. Please focus on getting that right. And when you get the documentation, please ensure that you understand every word. Get a legal help. I'm sure there will be a network which will help. Of course, or reach out to people like who already done it. We'll be glad to help and assist you whenever you need some. There are several black holes. There are several hooks that you need to be careful. And they are completely one-sided without you realizing it. And you will realize it only when any liquidity issue comes, or when there's a, when the shit hits the ceiling.
All those
They are
possible
complete.
will work.
Yes, all of them will be protected. You will be left holding the baby. Somebody else has had the phone.
That's it,
So
that's
if there are any questions, please.
It's been a pleasure. So, I'll open the floor up. You can pick
So,
your
what's
brains.
the good time to start for funding? Whether it should be, at least we should have a bootstrap product or.
Yes. First, you need to be convinced on what you're doing. And that's something that every investor looks for. You cannot have a concept and idea and go and say that I want money for it. Nobody's going to put money. You've taken the risk of putting your money behind, building the product, getting customers to use it. Paid or free is the next point. Today, earlier it was paid. When we were doing it, was paid. Everyone look at how many paid customers we had. Today, people talk how many users are there. Paid, we'll figure out later. Right? So, if there is traction, you are able to demonstrate on usage quickly. What is the strong value proposition you are, bringing to the table on both sides of the marketplace? Both are important. Otherwise, the marketplace and the network will not start panning out. These two are things that you need to crack in a typical, e-commerce online business that I'm saying. But otherwise, if it's SaaS and other things, you need to get the product built. You need to get users going using the product. You need to ideally show a few paid customers. Then you are in a good position to go. But even in that case, if you can manage the bootstrapping for some more time, the longer the bootstrapping run, the better is your ability to raise capital. The better are the terms you will get on your first round. The better will be your position of strength when you negotiate. So that's a.
So, how long will it take? I mean, will it take a year or a month?
Depends on product, depends on which area you're working, what kind of product you're working on. So typically it's at least 12 to 18 months, depending on what a typical consumer internet proposition will take at least 12 to 18 months. And whatever you build mobile first. Today, no investor is even willing to talk if you're saying this is a website that I developed. The next question is, what's the mobile version? If you say I'm working on it, then he'll say please work and come back. Build, think mobile first. And we are doing that already. And internally, my teams, the challenge is to, before anything goes on the website, it has to first be done on mobile, demonstrate, then we'll see how to. And in a category like us, where website is extremely relevant, today we are just we are only getting 30% of traffic through mobile. Whereas in e-commerce, other areas, people are already talking 70-80%. So unless you have a well thought through mobile proposition, and if possible, avoid leapfrog website. You don't need a website. And if that's the kind of proposition you have, which works purely mobile and then and addresses the mobile first internet user, you have a killer. You just have to get customer traction. You can figure the monetization later.
It's been an excellent connection of thoughts. One question from my side is, you said that you address on the customer side, so that is the biggest part of the funnel that you're focusing on. So where do you think are the blind spots where that customer base will actually, your customer base will again get eroded? Customers they always are opportunities.
Absolutely. I think you hit a very, very good question. It's not just that you first read the customer's requirement and then forget about it. You need to keep constantly engaging, understanding how your product is still continuing to be relevant in the consumer's context. And it can become irrelevant in double quick time. Today's, so just to give an example, in my, so if housing comes and gives everything for free, suddenly we are a little irrelevant. Right? I mean, why will a builder want to pay me money and do or take what I have to offer when there is housing and we give common floors now? So that's a disruption that's happening, and we are figuring out answers to it. The current momentum, the relationships we have will be valued to a point. It's not going to take me beyond that. So it's a challenge that I currently have. I need to find out how to counter this. We have a couple of things. Thanks to our capability of execution, the events that we've built. We are not just talking online, but a few other things in addition to online. So the conversation is still on. 99 acres is getting jacked. And so is Magic Bricks. Magic Bricks is now talking, okay, print and then you get everything free. Right? So again, this is, while we all know it's not sustainable from, in terms of always paying out, keeping it for free, you have to start charging. We have to, in the interim, to be relevant and survive. need to come out with alternatives. One of the alternatives that we do is the qualified site visits, then the online booking platform that we develop. So it's not just online marketing or leads alone, but bookings that are available. The platform is deployable wherever you want. We have developed a product which is almost like a mobile show flat. So your show flat is no longer restricted to your project site. You can deploy it wherever you want, including property shows. We have developed an experience center. On augmented reality on the mobile phone, we have some interesting. We are ahead there. So you need to keep engaging with customers, understand how your product can become even more relevant. Keep killing what is relevant constantly. That's one way to stay ahead of anything that could come in disruptive. Doesn't take away the fact that you need to keep engaging regularly with customers, be it through focus groups or through feedback forms or actual customer visits. So I started off initially the first 3 years. I made it a point to spend one day at the customer contact center handling calls myself. So that is closest you can get to agents. You get to speak to users, gives you tremendous insights on you will realize what your blind spots are. It come out, it'll be idiotic, you curse yourself for having this, that. But a customer will clearly point it out. So almost for almost 2011, 2012, so when I said about walking the talk, it had service elements too.